How's it going, guys? Aaron here. I wanted to bring you a different kind of video today. I wanted to talk to you not about my brand new computer, which I have right in front of me, the 2017 MacBook Pro 15-inch. I wanted to talk to you about buying used computers, notably used Mac computers, how that can be a fiscally responsible thing to do, and how you can actually get fantastic performance and reliability out of used machines that you can find. It's not necessary to buy brand new from the factory or from the manufacturer. So if you stay tuned with this video, you'll get not only some of the benefits, but what to look for. So let's get started. So this is, like I said, 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro. It's not the top spec, but it is pretty pricey. Now, I got this with sort of a special arrangement, so I didn't have to necessarily pay full retail on it. But it is brand new, and that's part of the reason why I bought it brand new. If I had to pay absolute full retail on a computer like this, I probably would not take the dive. It's not because it's not a great computer, it's just because there's more fiscally responsible things to do with your money than buy a brand new 15-inch computer like this when you are not necessarily the kind of person to push it to its absolute limits, and when you know the technology is going in and out of cycle, in and out of phase, and you're going to have to upgrade your hardware every so often anyway. So I'm going to put this aside so we can just talk, you and me. So what I want to talk about are two main benefits to buying used. One is depreciation. So on a brand new product, just like driving a car off the lot, when you drive it right off the lot, it may have that brand new fresh car smell. It might have that brand new warranty from the manufacturer, but it loses a tremendous amount of value very rapidly. And really what you get right in the beginning is a wear-in period, and possibly even a period to figure out that what you bought may have been a lemon. So anyway, good thing to avoid, I think, a fiscally responsible thing, is to avoid brand new product, whether it's a car, whether it's a computer. Buying something that is slightly used, not terribly old, not in disrepair. It should be in good condition, or in a condition where you can easily refurbish it or bring it back up to a very high standard. And it should be fairly recent enough where obviously parts are not an issue, where the performance is more than adequate, not only fulfilling your needs, but exceeding your needs, maybe even exceeding your expectations. So that's number one, is to avoid depreciation by not buying brand new. That's something that's helpful with computers, just as it is with other things. And the second thing is that it is important to know that when, like I was saying, there's it's possible to have a lemon, to get a device that is not what you thought it was. Not only a one-off, you could return that, but I mean that the actual production is flawed, the actual design is flawed. So maybe it's a model that doesn't get the greatest rap, but if you buy it brand new and you find this stuff out after you can return it, or after you can exchange it or whatnot, you may have some level of buyer's remorse and regret. And so when you leave some time after the release date to actually go out and do your search, what you're doing is you're giving yourself a bit of a lead on the market, in a sense, right? The market's leading you in time with the device, right? The market is able to experience the device, see the flaws, report on them, whatnot, but you're getting a lead, you're getting a head start on them. When you do decide to make that purchase, you have more information than they did, right? Because you are building off of everything that they had to go through firsthand. So you get the reviews, you get the information, you figure out if there are known issues with the product, you figure out if it's really what you're looking for. So you have more information to go off of, you get a lead of information, not necessarily a lead in time, but a lead in information. So you can be more sure, more confident maybe in your purchase. There are purchase protections and things, possibly even with used or pre-owned devices, things like that, I suppose, refurbished devices. But I'm talking about used devices, not necessarily refurbished devices from Apple online, let's say, if we're talking about Macs, because mostly I'm referring to Macs. And the reason why that is because, one, I'm an Apple supporter, I'm a Mac user primarily. But The other reason is that Mac computers seem to hold their value remarkably well. Now, obviously, any computer, any electronic device, it seems, it has a huge decline in its initial value due to depreciation. But after that decline, you can get the price, I'd say, to stabilize quite nicely, and much nicer, I'd say, than any cobbled-together PC. Not to say all PCs are cobbled together, but we're just using a little bit of hyperbole. So anyway, they seem to retain their value. And if you find a nice example online, let's say on eBay, what are some things you want to keep your eye out for? Well, you want to keep your eye out for the age. You want to keep your eye out for the specs. You might want to find out the battery cycles if possible. You definitely want to know the physical condition, any type of damage, right? And you want to know if it's upgradable. You want to know if it's user upgradable, because even if they're not the right specs that you want, if you get a good deal on it, you don't need the perfect specs. You can buy a new component, install it, and get more custom tailored experience than you could ever get as if you find the exact perfect one supposedly online. Plus, it's going to be a brand new individual component, and you get to tweak it potentially. So that's something. Those are things to look for. Another thing to look for is obviously the seller reputation, and another thing is to make sure that they are signed out of the Apple services, but most importantly, the Find My Mac feature. Any sort of tracking you don't really want them having control of. You don't want stolen machines. You don't want anything that's problematic like that. And you can probably consult with Apple after you purchase a device like that to make sure that there's no locks on the device. Make sure that it is legal to own, I suppose. I suppose it's legal even if it did have a lock, but it's not as kosher, let's say. So make sure everything's kosher, everything looks good, and you can probably even bring it in for a free appointment and just have them run a quick set of diagnostics and see if the computer's healthy within that time period where you can evaluate the device. Let's say you bought off eBay, to make sure it's actually what was represented in the ad. All right, if you're more savvy, you can probably do it yourself. You can run, once you buy it, of course, you look at the sold listings, find out the right prices, find out what's a fair price. Maybe you want to overpay because you need it right away. That's what I did with the Mac Mini. But anyway, you find what works for you, or that's what it seemed like happened for me. Find what works for you, and get the computer. I ran Apple hardware, I believe diagnostics, or some sort of triaging software that allows me, diagnostics software rather, that allows me to test the hardware, run it through its paces, memory and storage and processor, and I believe various different components. To make sure the hardware is good, you can probably do a visual inspection and put it through its paces a little bit. If you're competent enough to do it yourself, then do it yourself. You'll save a little bit of money and probably save some time, have full control over it, and you don't need to worry about what other people think of it. If you don't, you can probably approach a technician at Apple, go in, make an appointment, and come in at a scheduled appointment, or consult with your local technology person, your IT person, or somebody in your family, a friend, whoever that may be. So those are some tips, things to look out for. Obviously, platform to look for is eBay, of course. Personally, I don't trust Craigslist quite as much, although you might be able to find some good deals there and on other platforms. But we're talking about eBay primarily. Good seller feedback, the other criteria I mentioned, and then test and verify. Maybe even consult, like I said, with the OEM manufacturer. In this case, we're talking about Mac, so Apple. Beyond that, let's say it's a laptop, it has a battery, make sure the battery cycles aren't too much, and it's not too old of a computer. It has good, reputation for reliability, it seems, or it's powerful, and it's powerful enough for your needs. You want to make sure that the software that can run on it is current, and maybe even if you need to run legacy software, that it will support that as well. Because sometimes there's applications, like I had found it on my MacBook Pro, that won't run on the latest software, at least not as of yet. So you want to find that out as soon as possible, preferably. All right, so once you do all that, you can enjoy savings, from not needing it the second it comes out. You can still get a very fast computer, and you can still validate the quality of it. You don't necessarily need a full warranty if you're getting that kind of discount, and you're verifying it, and you have these buyer protections that eBay, let's say, has in place to make sure that it actually matches up with the listing. So if you're meticulous in what you're doing in your research, and you're meticulous in just your product research in general, and your verification, you're on top of it the minute you get the package, you open it up, you're verifying it, you're running it through tests, basically, if you're prepared, you can save money and you can do what I believe is the fiscally responsible thing. You're going to probably want to churn through the computers in some sort of reasonable time frame. You probably don't want to hold on to them as long as I've held on to my iMac, although I'll probably hold on to that thing until it goes. And maybe even when it goes, I'll try to fix it because it means something to me and it's such a workhorse. So, obviously you can keep dumping money into your old machine, but this is sort of an interesting way to do it. Not necessarily financing or leasing a brand new device, but rather buying a slightly used device, maybe something that's in good condition, but that can bring you potentially years of fantastic performance and a great experience while still saving a little bit of cash. And the last point I do want to make is something that ties into what I had said before, which is if you get the bones right, you get the structure right of the deal, you find the right seller, you find the right product, the right condition. Now the product doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be the right product, meaning that the upgradability, let's say, if it's a non-upgradable device, make sure you get exactly what you need, or more rather. If it's an upgradable device, look what can be upgraded, look at the costs, price things out before you buy the machine, obviously. If it has a hard disk right now, but maybe it supports SATA 3 connectivity, look at maybe a Samsung 850 or an 850 Pro or something like that, an Evo or a Pro, and then look and price it out. The storage, you might be able to take a computer that was already great at that price point and make it a fantastic computer, a super fast, reliable computer that you can customize to your own specs. RAM is another thing you can upgrade quite easily, memory in some of these slightly older machines, but you have to see if it's user upgradable. Now, sometimes things may not be user upgradable, supposedly, but if you do a little bit of research and you have a little bit of mechanical skill and electrical skill, you can do it, and it won't necessarily, I believe, require soldering. It just requires a little bit more prodding, special types of screwdriver heads, etc., and the like. Now, remember, this is all at your own risk. Obviously, I'm not responsible. I don't really need to mention that, but this is all at your own risk. You can damage, devices by going in there and doing things that the manufacturer doesn't necessarily intend for you to do. But if you're a little adventurous, or if the device is a little on the older side, you can find this to be quite enriching and very valuable. And so you can speed up a machine that was already at a good price, where you benefit from the depreciation, it's in decent shape, all these things. And it may be a proven model with a great reputation, but you can also customize it to your own specs and maybe even save some money because you're picking the exact model. You're not compromising on the component that you're upgrading. You're picking exactly what you want. You're installing it. You're taking that out of the equation. Now, even if you have to pay somebody to install it, if you find somebody reasonable, you have a friend, a family member, I still think it might be a better decision than buying a brand new machine. With that being said, if what you want is a brand new, you gotta have the latest and the greatest, you need the absolute fastest blazing performance, then absolutely look at the newest machines. But sometimes better stability, more fiscally responsible decisions come from looking at the used market, being knowledgeable, but looking at the used market to save yourself some dough and get a great deal and a fantastic computer. So with that being said, like this video if you found it useful, if you learned something, or if you enjoyed it, or all of the above, of course. Please leave comments in the comment section below if you have anything to say on the topic. You can give your opinion. We can have a bit of a back and forth, I suppose. Don't forget to hit the red subscribe button underneath so you get more videos from me in the future. And until next time, don't forget to follow your passions, do what makes you happy, and this is Aaron signing out.